Welcome to Seattle University School of Law. This is our webinar series for the online Master of Legal Studies in Compliance and Risk Management. Today, we will be sharing the stories of some of our recent graduates, and they're going to help you learn more about the program and give you some tips and key takeaways. I am Linda Heemer. I am the Senior Director of our Graduate Law Programs at Seattle University School of Law, both for campus and online. And as part of this program, I'm with you from the first contact all the way till after graduation. And even as you will see from our alums today, I consider them colleagues and friends, and I'd just be part of your entire academic journey. And tonight I'll just be hosting this webinar. The roadmap for tonight, we're going to introduce our panelists. They're going to share some of their stories, some of the things they'll probably talk about, and engage with attendees with any questions you may have. Are their initial goals that led them to us, their choice of this program, their student experience, what personal or professional outcomes they had either wanted from the program and now have achieved, and any tips and takeaways that may assist you as you are engaging in due diligence to decide if this program is right for you. Then we will briefly talk about next steps and have a Q&A. If at any time you do have a question, you're welcome to use the chat or the question and answer, the Q&A in your toolbar. I will do my best to intersperse those and ask the panel accordingly. Otherwise, I apologize, and we will try to get all of your questions or observations shared at the end of the presentation. Great. Our guests today, I would like to just introduce in order and let them talk a little bit about themselves. Anne, please say hello.
Hi, I am Anne Bayerkohler. I am the Senior Director of Corporate Compliance. I am in cybersecurity, so I manage internal audit, compliance and risk, and this program led to a promotion just straight away. So I wanted to say that right off. I had worked for this same company for about 5 years with no movement, and sure enough, I start this program and get promoted right away. So I guess that's all.
Well, it's all, but one of the things that we will, just for a little bragging rights, in 2020, weren't you recognized?
Yes, I have an award from cybersecurity from my leadership in women in technology for my cybersecurity career. So I am one of the inaugural members from Consulting Magazine for women in tech.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And next, Thijs.
Hi, I'm Thijs Jacobson. I work for a company called Crowley in the maritime industry. I am a supply chain and category manager. However, I do a lot less supply chain stuff and a lot more category managing stuff right now, which is very applicable for the program and the degree that we got, because you would be surprised how many things you have to be relatively knowledgeable when it comes to risk management and compliance for supply chain and managing. Currently, the category I manage is food, agency launch services, and chandlers. So it's quite a bit. And Crowley has well over 100 vessels, and the categories that I manage directly affect each one. So, and this program for me, not to kind of be Mr. One-Upper guy to Anne, but I actually got 3 promotions during this program, and my salary kind of went up about 40%. And I mean, I'd like to say that I have a lot to do with that, but I could definitely tell you that some of the lessons and things that I've learned from the program have definitely benefited. So.
Yeah, but it was you who worked through those lessons. So yeah, you had all to do with that. So glad we were able to assist you achieve those goals. But
my pockets are very happy you did as well.
Mine too. Mine too.
Fantastic. And Cynthia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Cynthia Scott. I'm a Senior VP Internal Audit Manager for Seattle Bank here in Seattle. And I was actually working at a different bank, and my current manager was a Seattle University alum from the School of Law. And I brought this program to her out of the blue that I found on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, what do you think about this, Terry?" And she's like, "Wow, if I had known about this, Master of Legal Studies and Compliance and Risk Management, I probably would have done my JD. I would have done this instead." Um, but she is very proud of her JD. Don't get me wrong. But I started. I was about a year into it, and another position came open at Seattle Bank for internal audit manager. It was kind of a stretch. And this master's program was instrumental in me getting that position. So I've been there for a little over a year now and doing great. And I have to say, every class I took, I could apply it right away to my job. And it was almost scary how something would come up in my job and I was in that class and getting the answers. So it was awesome.
Great. And congratulations to all of you. But I think the most exciting thing is your opportunities and advancement and using this program occurred before you ever graduated, because you just completed this program this August. So
That's true.
Yes.
Did we all get raises? I think
I
that's
did.
what. Yeah, I did too. Yep, we
I
all
didn't.
made. Oh,
Come on, maybe you need to ask somebody.
yeah.
Sign me up.
You should. Should we put in a good word?
Right.
Thank you. And thanks for your introductions. Okay, let's get right into the discussion. Our panelists today, I'd really love to hear a little bit about the goals you had. I mean, from the day you first contacted me.
I guess I can kick it off. I know where we were handling this in alphabetical order, so I'm always at the start, I guess. I remember speaking to you first. I looked at the website, I sent information out. I think I just filled in something on the website, and I remember getting a call from you, and I was literally in line to pick up my daughter from school. And I remember telling you, that's cool. I really don't have time for some marketing stuff. And you said, no, wait. I think you really want to hear what I have to say. and something you said, I can't remember what it was, triggered me to just pull the car over and just listen. And that was one of the best conversations I had. And you said, it's time to submit your documentation. The first thing, just send me an essay. And I remember, I don't know if you remember the title of that essay, but it was Street Cred.
Street cred. Street cred.
So my goal was really, I've been in cybersecurity for a long time. I like to say I was in cyber before it was called cyber, and in cloud before it was called cloud. However, my degree is in English, and I was an English teacher for several years, which I'm very proud of that service. But here in a industry that's just dominated by men, it was very hard to get any grounding, really just to get some traction in my career. And I felt I needed some street cred. So I had looked at an MBA, I looked at a couple of different things, and I really just thought, if I get a master's, that'll prove, even though I have all these certifications and I have all these years of experience, I just need a little bit more oomph. And this degree did that, I think. So I met that goal. And I do often say I attended law school. I'm constantly reminding people, you could see from my background, I use this at work as well to remind people that that I know a little bit more than they expect from the average English teacher, I suppose. So yeah, met that goal.
And I'd like to, thanks, Anne. I'd like to interject before Cynthia or Thijs joins in.
Yeah.
But you can genuinely say you are a law student and you did attend law school. You did not earn a Juris Doctorate. You are not you cannot practice law, but
Yes.
the degree you earn is from Seattle University School of Law, and we recognize everyone in the community as law students.
What's interesting about that is I reported directly to the general counsel for a little bit here at my company that I work at now. And her question was, are you going to continue on and get your JD? And I said, no, I think I've achieved what I needed to achieve. It was get just enough handle in the legal, the legalese, understand the background of the laws that we need to understand for risk and compliance. And I think probably Tej and Cindy will back me up on that, that having that knowledge just brings something. When you walk into the boardroom, you bring something else to the table that you didn't have before. So although you're not a lawyer, my general counsel worked with me, and I believe we worked just as we did in school as colleagues, and she deferred to me in a couple of different areas, which I respected, and I I liked that she came to me for that advice. So it was nice.
Tej, would you like to share?
Sure. So mine was a little bit of a different path. I've been a late starter to the school process, right? It was one of those people that got into school and then life happened, got into school, then life happened. I swear I have more credits than doctors. If you think I'm kidding, check my transcript. There's a ton of credits. So when I was actually going to go in and get my master's in business, and I thought to myself, that would be something that I could go get a job anywhere and make good money doing whatever, because, master's of business means I'm competent. But then I started, it was funny. My dad made a joke about something else about me looking into a law school. And I thought there was no way I could go to a law school. I'm not smart enough to get into a law school and all that kind of stuff. I didn't think I had that mentality for it. And then I reached out and I talked to Linda about it, and I told her what industry I was in. And it wasn't so much what she said, but how interested she was in the industry that I was in, because she had done work up in Alaska, which she had done a little bit of information about the maritime. She knew who my company was, and she kind of sold me on it. She's like, no, there's relevance here to what you do. There's actual relevance here. And so I thought, well, I could be one of a bunch of people with a master's degree in business and still do fine, or I could be a person who has a master's degree in law. It wasn't the idea of law that I found sexy, although I did find the degree sexy. For me, I'm that guy that always sits there and goes, oh, they can't do this. No, they're not allowed to tell me they can do this. And after taking this course, I know how to find those answers. Before, I wasn't the person who could find those answers. I just kind of talked out of where. But after you learn how to dig into the answers and the proper legal process, the way that lawyers actually set their research towards, it gives you a lot more confidence to feel comfortable when you're having those conversations. And when people say, oh, they can't do this, you go, well, actually, maybe they can, because law has its precedence, right? So as long as you learn and you can research where you found stuff, it definitely gives you an advantage when you are, for what Anne said, in the boardroom. And that's what appealed me for it. And I got in, and I was really glad I did so.
I'm really glad you accepted that offer too.
So am I.
All right, hey, you're up, Cynthia.
Okay. Well, as I kind of alluded to previously in my introduction, I was talking with my, manager, because I knew that I didn't know what I didn't know, and so I was talking with her on how I could learn the compliance that I was currently in at that time. And so I was looking through LinkedIn on stuff, and I had researched a couple of other universities and came upon this one, and I just thought, it just was perfect. It met everything I needed. This program met. So like I said, I showed it to her, and she said, go for it. So I did. So I also was looking for, like Anne, some street cred. And I was kind of at an impasse in my career. Like Thij, I had a lot of credits too for my bachelor's, and I actually graduated at 40 with my bachelor's. So, and I won't tell you how old I am now with my master's, but anyway, it was the best decision I ever made was this, and it met every goal I wanted.
Can I
Oh,
just
sure.
add, this feels like a reunion also, because we've been out of school for about 6 weeks now. And Cindy, Thij, and I talked at least twice a week for 2 years because we started at the same time. So going this long without speaking to you was hard for me because I made such good friends in this cohort. It was it's really good to see you all again.
Yes, Thij, you don't miss me anymore, do you? Though.
I do. I miss your critique of all my stuff. I do,
Well-
because it's always correct, right?
I was tweeting spell check.
Oh man, spell check, and I don't like spell check, man. I have a, if I ever meet the creator of spell check, no matter what they say, there's gonna be a misunderstanding.
Well, your professors miss you too, especially Frank. I told them we were going, Frank DiMarino. I said we'd be joining tonight, and he actually is planning. He's resides in Florida, and he's planning to fly up for commencement in December. So
Can I just say, I wanted to say a little bit about the professors because Frank, it's interesting that we're referring to him by his first name.
Yep.
Because from the very beginning, the professors treated us like colleagues, treated me like a colleague. I had conversations with almost all of my professors outside of class, and
But you could have taught 2 of the classes.
Yes, yeah.
So,
that's what comes
let's be
with
real
20
for a
years
minute.
of
Okay,
experience.
let's just be real for a minute.
Well, not having a JD keeps you from teaching at a school of law. I'll just point out.
You're right.
Yeah.
Not having a PhD.
Yep. You've got to have a terminal degree of some kind, but I feel like I have that in life and experience sometimes. But working with Frank, I think we worked with him a little bit every semester. And I actually live in Texas. I don't know how many people would know that here. I think everyone else in our cohort was out of the Seattle area. I have an office at the company where I work in Seattle, so that's what kind of brought me to Seattle U. But I'm looking really forward to actually traveling in December to meet these professors face to face, because I haven't been able to be at my Seattle office since COVID started. So this is really exciting for me to meet some of these colleagues, these professors and colleagues that have meant so much to me over the past 2 years.
That's fantastic. And yeah, that's our philosophy. And those are the faculty that I've worked with. Many of the faculty, even before this program, I've known for 20 years. And I brought in people, and I brought in many adjuncts who are practitioner scholars that I knew were passionate about what they did and passionate about teaching and learning, and that didn't, left their egos at the door and were coming here to learn. And that's what I hear from many of our faculty who, again, from day one treats you like colleagues, and rightfully so. And they all say how much they learn from every student, the perspectives you bring from your professional experiences, the way you challenge them, especially you three. No.
That did happen. I literally, the very first class, I took a class and I remember I loved these two professors. I feel terrible that I forget their names, Linda. It was the writing and research.
Alana DeGarmo.
Yes. Oh,
that was the most important class to me. That was the most important class.
Yes.
The very first class you take was straight out of the gate. Most important. I just loved them. And I remember the first class, something was incorrect. Now I'll just say that I worked at the regulatory agency as staff that they were referencing. So probably no one else in the world, but maybe 50 people would know that this one little piece was wrong. So I sent an email to Alana and just said, hey, this is a little off. And that's a little disconcerting sometimes to think, is I'm going to correct the professor on my first day? Like, is that what's going to happen? She responded immediately, said, let me take a few days, did the research, came back and said, you're right, let me make the correction, and then sent out a correction to the class on that one slide, just that one little bit. And I felt such immense respect for her at that moment, because like Cindy was saying, you know what you don't know sometimes, and to be brought, you know, something like that, I think she handled it very well, professionally, and treated me as a professional. As she didn't just discard what I said, she researched it and then really kind of put what she was going to be teaching us to the test, because I had to learn how to research the way that she did. She wasn't going to just take my word for it, but she did the research, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience.
Right. So that's your legal, you know, and as you alluded to, your first, this is a 2-year program, part-time, and your first year, your first 3 terms, fall, spring, and then summer, are you take 2 courses per term. So your first year is prescribed, all of your curriculum, and your first term is the foundational courses, the introduction to the American legal system and legal analysis, research, and writing. And so that gives you the framework and the foundation to succeed both in your careers immediately, and then to have all those competencies to then build with your final year, which are electives. And of course, in your final term, your capstone. So we've talked about your professor, Frank, Alana. Any other professors or specific courses that really stand out for you?
We did a lot on financial privacy, which really helped me because that was my shtick. So yeah, a lot of those courses, we had several of those that really helped me. And like, you know, Kelly was a great professor, and Jeanette, I liked her as well too, because she really challenged me in cybersecurity.
That's what's so hard. You can't remember their last names, right? Because we I only remember their first names.
Well, yeah. And here's my thing is, I never ever called them by their name. I always called them professor. Because
yeah, I did too. But in my head, I knew their first names. I just I don't know their professional title. Yeah, but I think, Thij, you were mentioning that the research was the most important class to you as well. And I think that was the class that we met in. Is that right?
No, you and I actually met in the well, I mean, obviously we met in every class.
Right.
The one where you and I first worked together was when we were doing the cyber framework, the auditing framework.
Oh, that's right.
Second term.
Yeah.
And I was struggling, and you were my partner, and you were like, oh, you know, you were confident that you already knew this. You're like, just, you know, just work it out. And at the very end, I was like, man, I'm not. You're like, I got this. She just bunched it out in like 12 hours, you know, and then it was all correct for both of us. And I was very happy at that point.
What's so great about this is I think the 3 of us show, there were a couple of other people in our cohort that were in healthcare and a couple of other businesses as well. And that's what I liked so much about the cohort, is everybody brought something different to the table. So where Cindy, you mentioned the financial industry, that was where I struggled, is because I didn't have that. And what I learned was enough knowledge to come back to my CFO, who ultimately is going to be my advocate, my sponsor in my organization. I was able to speak to him, and previously I was too worried. I don't know, is that imposter syndrome or what? But I was too worried to speak to a CFO. And having this background in the financial industry, particularly with your mentorship, Cindy, it was very helpful in those courses. I just learned a lot from both teams. And the healthcare team as well. I learned a lot, and I knew nothing about maritime until meeting Thij. I mean, it's important, but I had no idea.
I know.
How
I know.
important.
It was so fabulous to have Thijs in the maritime industry, and we learned so much. I learned so much from everybody. Throughout via the discussions and just talking, on the Teams. I learned we can use Microsoft Teams. Who knew? So I learned a lot. I'm not techie, and
What?
I know.
But we did learn all of that by the end of it. We all got to dip our feet in each of the different industries to get enough of an understanding. I feel like that I could speak about it, and particularly now with the problems with the supply chain, I understand it differently because of the conversations that we've had with Thij. So those, what were they called that we had to do, the homework that we had to do every week, where we
Presentations.
not the presentations,
Current events.
Yeah, but we had interactions where you would have to put it on the board. It's like
Your
a discussion
board.
yes. Yeah, the discussion board. That's not for the bulk of the courses. That wasn't just busy work. What you could really bring yourself to those discussions, and you just type in whatever your response is. And of course it has to be educated, and you have to show your research and things like that. But those discussions I found as much as valuable as the assignments themselves, because I learned so much from the different industries.
I always felt awkward in those because I always felt awkward in the discussion thing, because I always looked at it from a different perspective than what everybody was saying, right? Everybody would come in and a lot of people would say what they think the assignment was supposed to read. And I question everything by nature. I'm a conscious objector, right? So I'm always that person on the other end. But what's great about the program is nobody had issue with that, right? The professors would respond. They encouraged the outside the box thinking and the engagement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we had a chat, somebody in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, there was a chat. Oh,
yeah. No, I had one of the questions posed is, what about your, I mentioned the capstone in your final term, your capstone project. And the question is, how did you choose your topic, and did you have a faculty or sponsor assigned to you? And just briefly about the capstone experience would be helpful.
I feel like I always go first. Does anyone else want to
jump in? I could chime in if you want on the capstone.
Go ahead.
So the thing about the capstone, and this would be one of the things that I would encourage Linda and those that put this program together to kind of think about, is I think the capstone should be engaged really more from the start. And the reason I say that is because by the time you get to the capstone, you have because you're supposed to demonstrate what you've learned, right? You're supposed to demonstrate how it's applicable and what it means. And there's so much different stimuli that comes in during the different courses. There are things that trigger you, that make you more interested, that you go, you know what, I would probably like to maybe think about this as a capstone, but you kind of put it off until you have the whole package together. And then when you pick your capstone, the way I chose it was at first, again, I'm not the person that was like, what does Linda and Frank want to see? Right? Because to me, I'm like, I'm paying for this education. What do I want to see? What does Thij want to see from this? And so I decided to just basically create a score, an evaluation scorecard for how, if I got hired as a compliance officer, how I would present myself, how I could show that I'm competent, and not only competent, but I've got a program in place that I would implement right away. And I feel confident that I've learned what needs to be learned to implement such a program. And I was lucky enough to have a mentor at work that has a master's from MIT, and he does compliance his whole career. And the only critique he had from the whole process was that I didn't spend enough time with him.
Oh,
and that's the other thing. I missed out on that opportunity, that education, by seeing the value of that mentor.
See, now I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that, Thijs, because
Sure.
if I had to worry about my capstone the entire 2 years, I would, because I'm a perfectionist, and Linda knows this. I came to the very end, and I wasn't going to turn in my capstone. And Thij talked me out of dropping out of school twice. Once in Texas when we had that freeze. Which Frank was amazing. All the professors were amazing, but Frank called me after the fact and just said, take as much time as you need. But in Texas, everything shut down. So I lost 2 weeks of school. And Thij said, you'll catch up. Don't worry, you'll catch up. And then when it came to the capstone, I wanted it to be perfect. And Thij was like, just don't let perfection be the enemy of the good, right? Like just turn in some, and I ended up with a pretty good grade. I like to pat myself on the back. I liked it. I shared that capstone with my family and friends, and some people said, "What, you did this just in one semester?" And I did, but I think it's because that comes from that passion that you were talking about, Thij, is that you got to choose something that would work for you. And for me, I chose a project on privacy because that is the next step in cybersecurity. That's the next frontier. And I needed to learn more about privacy laws. And I wanted to really delve into that. And so I did, and I created a website and built it. It's privacyhoarder.com if anyone wants to go out
Shout out.
check it out.
Oh,
I know, humble brag. But yeah, I think if I had to worry about it the entire time, I might not have done it. I don't know, Cindy, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I was fortunate that my mentor was my old boss, who had a JD from Seattle University School of Law, and we were just kind of talking about what could it be, and she was, the latest thing is ESG, environmental, social, and governance risks, and I thought, bingo, excellent, and there's a lot of information out there on that. Just saying. And so I made a risk assessment and a primer to go with it. And I interviewed, created interview questions and interviewed 4 people from different banks, 1 credit union, 3 banks, and recorded those. And that was part of my presentation. And it's something that the 4 banks also got to use. I gave them my capstone project, and they all loved it. So, and I can use it at my bank. So it's something that I can use and is relevant.
Yep.
Thank you. And yeah, we do. You get to choose the project, and I take all of your. I think all of you have given me both formal feedback in the anonymous end of course surveys, but also informally. I know you've called. I know sometime you've called to say, "Hey, there's a professor that's not stepping up," and we've had to address it. So, but
I felt
again,
so
yeah,
bad.
no, that's the kind of program, and that's the kind of culture we create. My door is open, and I'm your advocate. And I always tell the students, I don't know if there's a problem unless you tell me there's an issue, and I demand a stellar experience for all of you.
That kind of brings me back to why Seattle U, because I didn't want to attend I didn't want an online degree. I didn't want, even though I've worked from home remotely because I'm in cyber, I've worked remotely since 2007. I really wanted reputation. I wanted a good school. I wanted a footprint so I could show up on campus one day and say, I went here. But my work, because of my position and how I have to fly around, and I'm constant before all of 2020 happened, I never knew what state I was going to be in. So in order for me to get to the next level and get that master's degree, I needed the flexibility. And it wasn't until I talked to Linda in that conversation where I was convinced that I would have the the excellence and the reputation that I needed. And actually, I didn't just take Linda at her word. I went back to my CEO at my company, and he knew someone on the board of regents. He knows, and he said that's a really great school. And I talked to one of my team members on my staff, and he said, that's an amazing school. And after I got all of this feedback from different people, I said, yeah, I can do this. And I know that I can do online school because I do online work. So you have to treat it the same way. You have to, in order, you get from it what you put into it.
Exactly.
So you have to have that discipline.
Yeah. And that's a great, if I can interject, that's a great point, because in the chat, one of the attendees has said, well, and I'll read it, realizing that this is a rigorous program, what were some of the strategies you used to ensure that you were able to complete all your assignments timely while still juggling career, family, and your personal time?
Well, I don't know if any of you saw Cindy's cat back there, but we've all gotten to know each other's pets and children, because that happens when you do it remotely. But go ahead, Cindy. Didn't want to interrupt.
Sorry. So I can help. I can answer that a little bit. Is on Sunday, read next week's all the readings on Sunday, because if you don't, you probably have 2 or 3 deadlines that are due, like discussion boards and responses and assignments. You're not going to have any time to do that on a Monday night and a Tuesday night before Wednesday rolls around and you have discussion due, because you will be doing a lot of research, and you have to give yourself time. And I know Anne writes fast, so I write slow. So I had to give myself enough time to think about stuff, do the research, write it. I'll say rewrite it, but I didn't really rewrite stuff, but but yeah, do that. Make sure the weekend before, so don't leave all your assignments to the end, to like the nth, I think they're due at like 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. Get them done on Saturday and use Sunday for your reading time.
I had a lot of 11:30s on Sunday.
Well, you're a working
11:30s on Sunday.
You're a working dad, though. You've got those young kids. You've got to feed them.
For me, I just had to do a little bit every day, right? And I don't have, the way my brain works is I can't, I'm so ADD. I cannot sit down and do all the reading at one time. I could, but I won't retain it. So for me, I had to just choose a little bit each day, and then I had to make what I read applicable to me, right? Because it is there. Everything you read as you get into it, you're going, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? So the balancing of it is just a little bit every day. And if you do just enough, this is for me, if you do just enough to be able to hold your own on the discussion board on Wednesday, it will carry over to knowing your topic by Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Thij. I have a really important and difficult job that with cyber, sometimes I feel like all I'm doing is putting out forest fires. I don't know if you guys noticed anything about ransomware in the news lately, but
yes.
I mean, it's a whole White House initiative now. Cyber is. I also have 2 children. I work from home. I go to school from home, and I have a partner also who he takes quite a bit of my time. So and dogs and family and the list could go on. But I think it's the flexibility of this program that is what allowed me to manage all of that. I did treat it like an in-person classroom where I would sit down and shut my door. I'm lucky enough to have an office space in my home. And so I shut my door and closed the curtains. And that was a key to everyone in the house, is that if the door's shut with the curtains closed, Anne is busy. And I just left it that way, and I would turn my phone off because otherwise, you get dings and texts and things like that. So I treated it like I do my job. There's times where you sit down and you focus, and if you can't do that and you have to shift something, like I did when there was the freeze and we had no electricity, discussion with your professors is really important. You let them know ahead of time, or in the case where everything died, it was on the news. So all I had to do was text Tej and say, before my phone dies, will you talk to Frank and let him know, and just spread the word that I'm going to be without. And sure enough, Deej did that for me. And I think I texted Cindy too and said, spread the word for me. I like that number 4, invest the time, because it does pay off.
It does.
Yeah. There's not a day that goes by that I don't look at this degree plan and think, oh, I'm sorry I did that. That was a waste of time. I never, like, I want to be back in the classroom. I want to do more.
Well, also, what it's taught is it's not the legalese that you would be afraid of, right? It's not like you're sitting down and reading a parenting plan or a divorce decree and like all the whereas and the what's not, right? Like there is a little bit of that, but it's mostly stuff that's relevant to your topic, and it's an easy read, so you understand it from a different perspective than you would be if you were diving in as a JD, right? So
Right.
it's a little bit easier to understand because you don't have to, for lack of a better term, regurgitate it in the same way as a lawyer.
Right. Yeah. I did keep my law books though. I don't know if you can see them back there.
I got all mine too.
Yeah, I bought them and I kept them. I didn't rent them, so I
go read on things that we didn't talk about. So,
yeah. Reading case law for fun, is that a thing? But boy, did I learn a lot.
I can't believe how much I learned.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up and segue to, of course, before this webinar, I talked to each of you, I talked to as a group and asked for some bullets and some of your guidance. And each of you sent it separately to me. And there was a common theme. And there was a common theme that I think was from the university, from our end, of how we developed and delivered the program and developed and delivered our motto and our promise to you. And then what you all said you had to, or a prospective student should bring. And the one word that I synthesized, that I distilled all that into, was engaged. That you can engage with the knowledge, with the content. That you need to engage with your peers, engage at work, take this back to your professional careers on a daily basis, and engage with your professors. And we've designed this program to make it engaging to you, the way we design the content, the way we create the discussions. So you discover information, you discuss it, and then you demonstrate to us that you've learned. That's the 3 dimensions, the 3 Ds of how we designed an online program. And this program was designed online long before the acute need of a pandemic. And so many people are like, hey, I'm an expert at online teaching and learning because I do Zoom. It's like, no, we designed this with best practices in mind long beforehand. So we're really confident in the quality. But that was the theme I saw from all of you. You bring something to the table, engage, and you will learn.
Yes.
Well, and I think bringing your work experience and who you are to the table, like I said, we know each other's pets and kids by the end of 2 years. And I'm excited to go to graduation to meet people face to face from the cohort that comes behind us, because we also intermingled with several of them in the classes, and that engagement with our peers, for lack of a better term, our colleagues, is what made this so valuable to me. Because if I had a question that I needed to bring back to work, there was someone in class that had experienced that before, that I could say, oh, I know, I'm going to ask Cindy, or I'm going to ask Tej, or I'm going to ask somebody. And if there wasn't, I could always ask the professor as well. But
yeah. Sometimes we preferred that you ask the professor first. There was those situations where we're like, what do we do in that assignment? And everyone submitted something a little bit off. And they're like, well, I asked Cindy and Cindy asked. And it's like, why didn't you ask your professor? And it turns out, when and I've told this to many students in the 20 years I've been teaching, is when a student gets a bad grade, I don't say, yeah, I got him. I say, oh, I didn't reach him. It's a failure on my part. And usually if some students will say, I didn't want to sound stupid in asking the question. Well, that's the only stupid thing you did was not ask. But what did I do to make you feel that there was that barrier? So we encourage the question, because if one person has it, the whole class does. And usually it's our failure to communicate.
Well,
And
I didn't
so,
mean schoolwork. I meant my work, like
yeah.
my paying job, that I might have questions about.
Great.
I knew
Yeah.
I had something coming up. I could ask someone. So I have this whole toolbox now that I didn't have before.
Yeah.
That I get to keep too with me. I get to carry.
And excuse me, Anne, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
And I
no, go ahead.
hope the connections, the relationships you've built, both with your faculty and your student colleagues, and now your alums, and the broader alumni community, all of Seattle University, that you carry that with you, and you're already giving back. There's a lot of people I know, like your high school diploma, it was like, hey, I got mine in New Jersey. I was like, goodbye, New Jersey. But instead of saying goodbye, Seattle University, you're coming back and you're giving back already, and you're the ambassadors for the program. And I'm so proud of all of you. And I know part of that was the program, the faculty, and the students that we brought that enabled you to have this positive experience.
Well, all of us.
It was fantastic.
All of us will tell you exactly what we think. Linda didn't handpick us to say who's going to say the best thing.
No.
I think all of us will tell you exactly.
Thank you. And if you started off on a tangent, I would have been like, we are experiencing turbulence. I'm going to have to disconnect. I'm going to have to mute Anne in Texas. All right. So again, next steps as we wrap up tonight is I encourage you to apply now. The application deadline for the spring term is November 1st, but this is a part-time, but it's fully online and it's fully engaging. Contact me. We can discuss your academic journey. I will respond promptly to all of your inquiries and respond promptly to your application. So I just encourage you to apply. Hopefully you'll be accepted, and please begin the journey with us. And soon and quickly, it goes quickly. Anne, Cindy, and Thijs will be colleagues and fellow alums of yours.
Yes.
So those are our deadlines. Are there any questions? Or I'm checking the chat. I'd like to take a moment. But while I'm watching the Q&A, if anyone has any final takeaways or insights, please feel free to share them.
You won't go wrong in applying for this program. Trust me.
I'm going to say the same thing.
That's because we're both English majors, Anne.
I know, we're thinking it. And if you have questions, there have been other people who have had questions about the program. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm not anywhere else online except Privacy Hoarder and then LinkedIn. But if you find me on LinkedIn and you want to connect, just connect and ask me any questions. I'm happy to connect with you offline if you want to talk offline.
Yep. Same goes for me. I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you. I don't see any questions. This was a fabulous, and it is great to see you too. I miss you all too. So please don't be strangers. And for all those in attendance, thank you so much for your time. And I want you, please be well, stay well, and I'll see you all soon. See you at commencement.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yay.
All right.
Bye all.
Take care,
Bye.
everyone.